So Argentina had their runoff election, and the news is stunning. Javier Milei, is that how you say his name? He was elected as Argentina's next president. He is a libertarian. He is the exact opposite of really any kind of politician that we have seen here that is even close to being president of the United States. Even Donald Trump. Donald Trump still plays within some of the norms. He is often compared, this guy in Argentina is often compared to Donald Trump, but I don't think they're comparable.
I think just because he's outspoken. Like that seems to be the largest similarity there, right? Like he's super outspoken, but he describes himself as an anarcho-capitalist, which is not how Donald Trump would describe himself at all.
Not at all. He is going to get rid of this is what he says he's going to do. Get rid of the peso because it's falling, and he's going to put the dollar in. Good luck with that one. He is also getting rid of their Federal Reserve Bank. He's getting rid of hundreds of programs. He is just going to cut this government to the bone.
Have you seen the video of him walking in front of the whiteboard and he's just pulling off the stickers of all the different agencies, like the Department of Families and Health, God, like every single one, he's just pulling off and throwing it away. Now, look, is he going to do those things? I hope so. Probably a lot of those agencies are incredibly pointless, just as they are here. Now, not knowing the full story of the structure of the Argentinian government, I'm going a little bit on guesswork there. But I mean, every government is like that, especially in South America.
I will bet you that Art Laffer would like this guy. We should call Art Laffer because he knows Argentina real well. He did this back in the 80s. Argentina always, succeeds, becomes wealthy, and then goes to socialism and destroys itself. Yeah. And then, goes back to its roots, and then it destroys itself. So he did that in the 80s. He restored it in the 1980s. Well, they're back. But
I mean, look, the promise is high here. I do hesitate. There's a lot of ifs that could happen here, right? Like, I don't know everything about this guy. Who knows what policy he actually implements when he's in office? What crazy thing we don't know about him? Who knows? He at some level, he's still a South American politician. So I'm going to hold out hope. But the things he said are really good, really positive. If he actually does them, if they work, it could be an incredible thing. I mean, it might inspire countries all in the region and all over the world to replicate that process. So there's really high hopes for someone who would come in and actually do this stuff.
What's really interesting is how cautious people are on saying, I like this guy. I don't know. I don't know enough about him.
Yeah.
I like what he says so far of what I've heard.
What I've heard has been very good.
I don't know. Same thing with Geert Wilders. Geert Wilders could become the next prime minister. The next Dutch prime minister. Now, he's just won a massive election. He didn't win enough seats to become prime minister, but if he cobbles together a few more seats, he may become prime minister. This is a guy who's been on this show, and we were told by everybody, don't have him on.
He's too bad. He's too dangerous. He says bad things.
We thought he was delightful, at least in the interview. He was wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Seemed fine in the interview.
Yeah. So, but we always have to say, well, but I'm not sure. But do you ever hear anybody backpedaling on Justin Trudeau?
No, they never do that.
I mean, the things that guy has done, and nobody ever says, well, I don't agree with everything. Right. It's not a bad thing.
But I don't know. I hold myself to a higher standard than the left holds themselves.
Yeah, so do I.
I hope that we would have higher standards than them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I do have a problem with it doesn't matter what you do on the left. Doesn't matter. If you turn into a Castro or a Stalin, it doesn't matter.
Apparently you can kidnap and murder thousands of people. Yeah. And you'll still get cheered on by these people. On the left, and the situation is, I don't know, as a conservative, like, we talk about principle a lot. I do think it's important, and I'm happy to criticize someone who's supposedly on the right if they're wrong. Right. Like, I just don't want to stand by them just because they they align themselves with my general political outlook. But that is not how the left operates.
No.
And, you can make the argument that politically, in a pragmatic political sense, where the ends justify the means, that's the right approach. That's not how I look at the world. I don't think that's how you look at the world. And I don't think that's how most conservatives look at the world, maybe to our detriment when it comes to winning and losing sometimes. But it's okay.
So there's two people now that the press say, out of control, these guys are worse than Hitler. Okay? Guy in Argentina and Geert Wilders. They may end up being that. I don't think so, but they might. I don't know. It's not my country, so I don't follow them as closely. However, I might be for them, kind of. I hate to say that because I don't know enough about them, but what I see, I like. However, they might go bad.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what you should take away from all of this movement politically, because it's happening in Europe and it's happening in South America. It is moving away hard from the left and going right. In the case of Argentina, small government right. I mean, very small, libertarian right. And everybody is losing their minds. A libertarian government is not powerful enough to make you do anything. That's the good thing about small government. It can never really harm you. It's not spying on you because it's not big enough. These guys, if they work, this is going to be a huge move for the world back to more freedom and common sense. Geert Wilders won. Why? Because of immigration. The Dutch are tired of having people just rape their daughters, kill on the street, and no ramification. No ramification. You don't have to. When you go over to Sweden, you go spend any time in the Norwegian countries, you will see how accepting they are, how loving they are. But it is a very, very non-diverse population until recently. And now the non-diverse population coming up from the Middle East doesn't want to be Swedish. They don't want to be Dutch. They don't care. They want the free stuff, but they'll have their own no-go zones. They'll have their own communities. And it's not a part of that culture. Everybody has turned a blind eye. You're now seeing the immigration be a problem all through Europe. You're going to see it as a problem here in America soon. I mean, I can't believe how much has changed on our border. And relatively, nobody's talking about it. That's one of the biggest changes in my lifetime. And nobody's really talking about it. When that poses a problem, when we start to have terror attacks or whatever, we start to collapse our economy because we're overrun with this in this lifeboat called America. There are too many people trying to get into the boat. Then you really have problems. So I'm glad to see that before things catch completely on fire over in Europe and in South America, there's a couple of places that may turn things around.
Yeah. And I think, too, this idea that maybe leaning air on the side of liberty.
Yes.
That's what's encouraging about the guy in Argentina, Milei, for me, is that, he might, look, we all know Ronald Reagan wanted to get rid of the Department of Education. He wasn't able to do it.
And the Fed.
Will this guy be able to get rid of all these agencies he pulled off as stickers off the whiteboard? It's going to be really hard. I assume there's a million different people that are inside the government and have been inside of the government structure forever that will do everything they can to stop him at every turn. But just the fact that he's attempting to do these things and pushing in that general direction, it's hard to see how they can make the country worse. At the very least, they take a little bit less of your money.
I will tell you this. It is like never before. You are going to be assassinated politically. your reputation, your life, everything will be assassinated by the press and by the left. And if you get these people in who are serious about taking apart the Fed and some of these things that are absolute institutions that are deep, you start having a president take on the intelligence community here in America, you may be looking at worse than a political assassination. That's really dangerous to do. And I never thought I'd feel that way in America, but I do. Don't you?
It is, yeah. I mean, it is.
Look what they did to Donald Trump. And look what what I think they're willing to do to Donald Trump. Somebody steps up and is effective at taking on the deep state. God help him. God help him.
There's a lot, yeah. I mean, like you're standing up against people who have entrenched interest in something that you don't want, and you're trying to destroy in their eyes.
All kinds of power,
all sorts of power.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the first things we talked about with Donald Trump, and in a critical way at some level, was to say, hey, like you better be sure if you're going to critique our and critique is not the right word for what Donald Trump was doing, but like. Go after the intelligence agencies.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to sit back and just let that go on. You better be sure. Now, he did it anyway, and he had to deal with the effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's a risky strategy. At times, it feels like, you know what? It really does need to be done, and I'm glad he's done it. But he's dealt with lots of personal discomfort and continues to over, I believe, those attacks at the beginning and more as he went on. I mean, like, they're not going to just give up their power. That's not what happens.
I know. I wish we just cobbled together a coalition. I really do. I wish Donald Trump is so focused now, has to be so focused on what's going on in his life.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we would put a coalition together where everybody gets behind somebody and just says, okay, what's best for the country? All of us getting together right now and developing something that a majority of Americans can get behind. Because I won't believe it. If this guy, Joe Biden, can win, I mean, I've never seen a guy who has done this with war and made things as unstable do well in a presidential election. Never seen a president who has an economy like this do well in a presidential election. I've never seen a guy who is more incompetent do well in. I mean, this guy has everything going against him, and it's still competitive? How's that possible? Just how is that possible?